Here we go. Welcome back on the YouTube channel Butterfly Holistic Nutrition and Lifestyle. And I have another amazing guest speaker here today with me. And I'm so excited to have this conversation because I think it can contribute tremendous value to you when you are stressed, when you feel exhausted and overwhelmed with your job, and you are considering back and forth if this is the way you want to lead your life, right? And I love having these conversations because they need to be challenging for us to move forward and to change things. And so today I'm gonna ask Alison Graham all about that. And I'm so happy she is joining us here today. And she is the author of an amazing book called Take Back Your Weekends, Stress Less, Do More, and Be Happier. So thank you for joining me here today, Alison. Welcome. And
Thank you.
let's dive in on this topic. So we are stressed at work. I mean, a lot of people are, right, on a daily basis. So any tips to get started if you feel stressed and you feel overwhelmed? What's the first thing you're going to ask yourself?
Well, there's so many tips, and I'm so grateful to have you. I'm so grateful that you're having me on your show. I was so blessed to have you on mine, and we had a really great conversation. So thank you very much for that. And it's funny that you asked me this question because as we start, because today I put out what do you call this? Like a carousel on LinkedIn, and yesterday I did a post around like if you're unhappy at work, aka stressed, and at your wit's end and just using the phrase, I'm done, you don't have to quit your job to find happiness, right? Because I think the knee-jerk reaction, and not even a knee-jerk, you know what, I think a lot of professionals just really contemplate this over a long period of time. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. They're just like, I'm so overworked. I'm underappreciated. I feel like I'm never going to get anywhere in this company. Screw it. I'm done. I'm going to quit. And then they just throw up their hands and they think they're going to go work somewhere else. And it was funny. One of the stories I told yesterday is a friend of mine who did exactly that. She's like, I can't handle it anymore. I'm so stressed. And it was specifically a boss, right? Her boss had very toxic behaviors. And so she quit. And she went to the competitor. And for 30 days, she was happy as could be. And 30 days later, that same boss left the other job and came to the same competitor.
No.
So she just brought the problem with her. And the thing is that we have to get better at responding and how we solve problems. That's my work, right? Is how do you really effectively solve the problems of the human experience? And this interaction, this level of stress is not how our bodies are designed. It's not how we want to live our lives. And yet there is a way to stress less while you still do a good job, right? Like, because a lot of times people say, all right, the answer to not stressing is I'm going to dial it in. I'm not going to do as much work. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's not the answer either. So there is definitely a way.
Yeah, no, and I'm so glad you bring that up because I think that is our default thought pattern that we have, where we say, oh, you know what, I'm just gonna quit, right? Giving up seems to be the easy way out. But as you say, the problem will follow you. And if not your boss, like in your story, then your own mindset and your behavior and how you see the world will follow, right? And then you will find something else that annoys you, that stresses you, that you don't like at this new place. So I think that is super important for us to realize that we have to start with ourselves, if we want to solve this problem, and not just look outside, who is doing this to me, like who's doing what to me all the time. Because yes, sometimes people do things to us that are super stressful. I mean, that's reality too.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's like how we respond to it, right? And I'm glad that you do the work that you do, because I think we all need to get better at it, because we seem to be running from our problems, and think if we are hiding or if we're just fleeing, the stress response of fleeing, then it's going to get better, which in most cases, it probably won't be better, right?
Yeah. Well, and it reminds me of the saying, everywhere I go, there I am.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Like it's just, we take our patterns with us. And if this person is causing you stress, or having a to-do list that's never going to end, by the way, it's never going to end, right?
Yes.
Just accepting that and stop being emotionally attached to, I haven't got it all done. If those external circumstances are what are driving your stress response, then you are never going to feel in control. You are never going to be at full peace or have that sense of, I've got this, because you're at the mercy of whatever the issue is that somebody else is pulling you in, whatever direction or agenda or, circumstance that is not, like, you can't stop. And so it all is about how you respond.
Yes.
And those patterns, like many of us have many decades of imprinting our patterns in how we show up in our days. And it takes a lot to change them, but it's not as hard as we think, right? I think a lot of times what happens is people are so caught up in the destructive stress vortex that they don't take the time to invest the time to solve the problem for tomorrow. Right? Like, if we don't want to be on the same, if you think 6 months down the road, your next 6 months are going to very closely reflect your last 6 months, unless you choose to do something very different.
Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. If we are not showing up and making the decision to change, nothing's really going to change. We will have the problem here or we will have it there, because it's us, right? It's inside of us. So what do you feel like, in terms of the stress response? Is it like a learned behavior? Is it genetic? Is it like, why are we feeling that way? Is it like a personality pattern, like type A personality who needs to be in control at all times? Do you see any patterns with different types of people who feel like this very pressing stress and overwhelm?
Oh my gosh, so many questions in one. I love it.
Yes.
It's all personality types and different types of responses. So it's the person who is, yes, the A-type personality, right? Who is the driver, and they're going to get it done at all costs. And, I learned the hard way that powering through is a direct path to burnout, just keep going. But it's also on the other end of the spectrum, the people who are feeling obligated or who feel like they're not doing enough. Like, there's so many different reasons why people might be having that stress response. And so it doesn't discriminate against personalities. It doesn't discriminate against job responsibilities. There are people who are, stay-at-home moms who are absolutely at their wits' end. And there are CEOs of, multi-million-dollar corporations who are at their wits' end. It's the entire spectrum. As to why, I think it's very much, sure, there's some, how you were raised and what you learned and what your past is, but I also think it's societal.
Yes.
I think that as a society, we glorify busy and we minimize the need to heal and take time off. And so when you look at what that does, so, oh my gosh, I'm so busy. And like, that's like, if you're not, something must be wrong with you. Like, what do you mean you're not busy? Right. And we glorify that, but it's not actually how we're designed to function at our optimal performance. Then on the other end, if you're crying because you're feeling an emotion that's probably legitimate, because it's your emotion, so it's not a probably, it is legitimate. And somebody comes along and sees you crying, they say, it's going to be okay, don't cry.
We tell that kids all the time, right? We tell that the
worst thing, I think, don't, like, I think the absolute worst thing somebody can do for a child is tell them to stop crying. The pattern as we go through our lives is basically stuff down the emotions that I don't like you feeling. But the truth is, we need every possible emotion on the whole spectrum in order to feel all the feels. Right? So, but I think that's societal. But then let's say you have just gone through a divorce, or you're going through chemotherapy, or you've lost a loved one and you're in the grieving process, and you've come back to work, after a couple of weeks off, and your colleague says to you, how are you doing? Your response is going to minimize probably how you're doing. You're probably going to say something like, I'm fine. Right?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
the thing is, you're not fine. Like, you're absolutely not fine. You're anything but fine. You are heartbroken. You're devastating. You're grieving. There's so many other things that you are. But as a society, we don't like this stuff because it's the tough stuff. It's the stuff that makes us feel. And we're so afraid of our emotions and feeling the ick that I call it the gotta go technique. Right? And I used to be notorious for this. I don't like how it feels over there, so I got to go over here and be busy so I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, I agree. And I think a lot of people do that. That's just our default. Yeah.
And eventually the universe will catch up with you. Like eventually somehow, some way, you're going to have to feel those feels. So whether they come up as a stress-related disease, which there's tons of research around that, whether it comes up as hurting your relationships or in some sort of an adversity that you face by burnout or, whatever the case may be. But it's, you got to feel them.
You got to feel them. I agree. But, if you think about it and you were to tell people to cry at their workplace because they feel stressed, you probably will get a lot of pushback, right? With this suggestion, because
probably not.
I can't cry in front of my boss, or I can't cry in front of my coworkers, or we will have a million objections why that's not going to work, right? Because I think it's the guilt and the shame we would feel to admit that.
100%. And I'm not suggesting that one should go around crying everywhere they show up, totally not emotionally regulating at all. That would be very bad for your career. However, we need to understand the underlying conditions that are causing this ultimate level of stress. And so a part of it is it's all the perspective. So I work with the C-suite leaders and their teams, and I go in and I help them create a problem-solving culture. Because if we can create a problem-solving culture and empower and inspire people to deal with all the suckage that's going on around them, then ultimately we can increase the productivity, we can lower the destructive stress, and we can minimize the risk of turnover and risk of burnout. And so that problem-solving piece, normally when we talk about problem-solving, the way we go at it is solution-first thinking. I have a problem. I need a solution. And what I've found is that when we do solution-first thinking for matters of human experience, we actually get worse solutions.
Interesting. Right? Tell me more.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
So we need to do two things first. We need to be very clear on situational awareness, and we need to dive into self-awareness. And then solution activation makes it very easy. So let me walk you through these and I'll give you an example. And actually, this would be right up your alley with all of your work around nutrition and productivity and how it feeds into performance. So many people can probably identify with needing to go on a diet. I know I have, right, over the years.
Oh, yeah. I think we all do. We all do at one or the other point in our life. Yeah.
Right. And so the solution first thinking is I need to lose weight, and therefore, keto is really popular, or paleo is really popular, or vegan is really popular. I'm going to do vegan, right? And then they go on a diet, and for the first 3 days, rocking it, right? Like bring on the bacon in the keto world, right? And then by, Friday night, they're on the couch watching Netflix, eating nachos, and drinking a beer. Right? And it didn't work. And then it's like, oh, well, the diet didn't work. The solution didn't work. When in actual fact, if we would have backed up, forget about what the solution is to start. gotten really clear about the situational awareness. So what is going on? Okay, I need to lose this much weight. How much have I done? What is my body chemistry, right? Like, why do I have a blood sugar problem? Do I have this? Do I and investigated at the situational level, what's happening? What are the facts of this situation? And then went into the self-awareness, which, the trouble with self-awareness is that it often will cross over to self-judgment. And judgment just becomes another layer that we need to blast through in order to get to the actual thing. So we want to approach self-awareness through a lens of compassionate curiosity.
Yeah, I love that. That is so important.
Yes. So in this diet scenario, let's ask the question, how am I making it harder for myself to lose weight? Right? How may I be making the problem, and how am I responding to this issue? What are my emotional triggers? How do I feel about myself? Where's my self-confidence? Do I believe that I need to or that I can be, or I deserve to be a bigger weight? Is there a reason why I'm holding on to the excess body fat? Right? Do I find it as a protectionism? Like diving into that. Where are the emotions? What emotions am I having when I trigger? Right? I've gone through this myself. And then when we've done that work, finding the solution is simple because we have the foundation. So now let's think about that in a corporate culture situation. So let's say you are the whole concept of take back your weekends with the book is not necessarily I don't want you ever to work on a Saturday. If you want to work on a Saturday, go for it. That would be totally hypocritical of me if I said no, because I love working on the weekend sometimes because I get into flow and I'm just in my little zone. But it's really about having the choice. Having the choice. Am I going to work those extra hours? Do I want to work those extra hours? Or am I having to work those extra hours in the downtime when nobody else is at work and nobody's bothering me because I have an interruption problem during the week?
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's look. This is what happens. And so then people wonder why they're stressed. Well, if we objectively look at your work week, there is probably hours being just gutted from your day, stolen from your capacity to do, to be, to feel, to think. You only have so many resources. And if you're getting pulled in a million different directions and never getting any work blocks in and never allowing people to interrupt you and you have all your notifications on, no wonder you're stressed and not getting the work done.
I agree with you. That is one of the stress tools that I love to use for myself, but also for my clients, because I feel oftentimes people are so frazzled because they have set themselves up for constant interruption. And I know for myself too, if my phone rings, I get a text message, I'm doing a StreamYard interview and I get 5 emails and everything dings at me at the same time, I'm totally stressed. It stresses me because my body wants to pay attention to all of the things that are just happened, and it's just not possible. I feel overwhelmed and stressed. So really creating these oases and those little pods of, this is my distraction time, this is my work time, but they don't cross, right? That is so important when we talk about stress management for all of us.
So I'm going to go a step further with what you just said.
Yes,
what you just said is so insightful for people. Because here's the thing. So we're in this situation, we're doing this. And let's say right now we have 5 new emails each that have come up, 4 texts, by the time we're done our interview. And we've remembered in the back of our mind that we have to pick something up tomorrow when we're out and about. All of that is completely normal and part of being a quote unquote busy professional. Okay. So what I'm trying to get people to realize is those 5 emails are going to come in. And what I want to have happen is you not to emotionally react to the fact that they've come in. Because if they're coming in and they cause a feeling of overwhelm, that's our problem.
Yeah.
It's like I had a client, we were, just starting our client relationship, very first call, 5 minutes in, and she just starts crying. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what's going on, And she said, I am so stressed and so overwhelmed. And she said, the thing is that I feel so guilty because when I am working, I'm not spending time with my family, and they need me right now. It's COVID, they need me. But when I'm with my family, then I feel guilty because I know the work is piling up and I'm not on top of the workload. And I'm like, and she's like, I just can't get caught up. The work never ends. And I'm like, exactly. Like,
Yeah.
that's the point. And if that emotionally triggers you, that there are items on a to-do list, then we have a problem with your overall opportunity to reduce your level of stress. And so this is the thing I'm trying to get people to understand, is that these things can come in, but our stress response doesn't have to be stressful. We don't have to be stressed by the fact that we have things to do. And like, I call it in the book, I talk about the task circle. It's not a to-do list. A to-do list insinuates that a list will end.
Yeah,
No,
it's true, right?
It
just
keeps going round and
seems
round.
finite. It seems finite, and we question this, like, why is this finite list infinite? Like, how does that work? But yeah, you're right. It's more like a circle.
Yeah. And so just because something goes wrong doesn't mean it needs to be inherently stressful. And this is our control. This is how we can revisit how our perception of the workload, our emotional attachment to the workload. I don't mean don't care about your job. Absolutely care about your job. Ironically, if you're less emotional about the things that are in the back of your mind or on the list, you will do a better job of the thing that you're actually working on.
Yeah, that is interesting, right? So we have to check our emotional investment, I guess, on all sides of the equation, right?
Yes.
And see if this is aligned with us, with our mind and our body.
Yeah. And it's like, I remember I was giving a workshop. This is like in person before COVID. And I was talking about the fact that we have tasks and obstacles and adversities, which is one of my core foundational principles, like part of my intellectual property suite. And anyway, and how obstacles we can expect in business, things go wrong. And just because something goes wrong doesn't mean it needs to be inherently stressful and cause a problem. We just have to get down to, problem solving framework. Okay. Anyway, I start seeing all these eyes and like the little elbows to the side, the buddy, right? And as any facilitator would do, I had to call them out on it. I'm like, okay, guys, something's going on here. Like, what's the story? And it turns out that when something went wrong, so let's say they had a client file and there was an obstacle that came to be where like a mistake that was made. Everybody in the firm would get involved. The head honcho would get angry. Everybody would come down to the boardroom. They'd start pointing the fingers, and everybody would like try to distance themselves and be like, I'm not a part of that. And oh, it's so-and-so. And all of this drama and this anger and all the stopping of the work of production to deal with this issue. And I said, well, like, at what point are you dealing with the client? Like, what point are you getting into solution mode? And they're like, oh, not for a while. Like, nobody's even talking. We're all just fighting about something that's gone wrong. And I'm like, okay, but in business, is it typical to expect that at some point something's going to go wrong? Like,
yeah, it's pretty likely. Pretty likely, right?
It's not shocking. So why are we shocked? It's like in an airport, back in the day when we all were in airports all the time, and I would watch people and I'd be like, oh my gosh, like it's fascinating to me. Like, since the dawn of air travel, I'm going to guess that there have been mechanical delays, and there have been weather delays, and there have been long lineups, and there's been lost luggage, and there have been people sitting in the wrong seat, and there have been babies who have been crying. That's just what is part of air travel. And yet you can sit in an airport and watch people, and they will act as if it is the first time ever by their drama about the first time anybody's ever lost their luggage. Like, I can't believe you did this to me. Well, no, it's just an inherent risk of the thing. So, so often we waste so much time reacting to the obstacle instead of just getting to the real issue, figuring out the self-awareness piece, right? And then going into solution activation mode. Like it's okay, that happens. Let's just keep going. And it's not that we're being callous about it. It's that we're choosing how we're going to invest our emotional and our mental and our physical capacity each and every day.
Yeah,
and I
absolutely.
I think people are spending it the wrong way. Not like we're not wrong from a judgmental way, but not in a way that feels fulfilling.
No, you're so right. And, putting this even further, then your health starts to suffer, right? Because we know that chronic stress, and that would definitely fall under the category of chronic stress, will affect our body. It affects our body on a level of a mitochondrial level, of an immune system level, on a gut health level. That's where chronic disease sets in if we are remaining in such a victim mode, I call it now, because we are going in circles, right? And we're just reacting, as you say, but we're not taking action. And I think this is super prevalent, and this is what I love to talk about, is taking action is so important. I can't emphasize this enough, because if we are only reacting, we will never change anything. But if we take action, and even if it may not be the right action, but we take action, that is the key point here, then we actually have a chance of changing things and staying healthy, and looking at our life from a more positive outlook, because also our mental health cannot stay healthy if we are not getting out of this stress cycle. It will suffer over time, because we have no capacity left to feel the joy, to think about all the great things we want to in our life and do, all the fun stuff, that we want to do. We will just be too exhausted to even think about it. And that is not a really great way to live. And also, if you have employees that run on borrowed fuel and energy, guess how productive they are going to be, and guess how that will bring your cause forward and your company forward. We are all not moving in the right direction if we keep walking this path.
I think you're so absolutely correct, right? And it's interesting because when you were saying that, I was thinking, if your capacity is maxed in the day because you're getting pulled in a million directions, you're responding to all these things that need to happen, many of them out of your control, and then you get to dinner and it's dinner time, right? And are you really going to pull out the broccoli, right?
Yeah.
And start eating healthily? Or are you going to do the drive-through through insert whatever place here? And that cycle is a problem. And so when we look at our capacity, and most people never actually consider their capacity as an objective thing that we're going to solve for. And I think we really need to, because we only have so much to give each and every day. But there are only 3 ways to fix. If we have an equation, so here's all your stuff, the stuff that's causing you stress or that you need to deal with, to think, to feel, to be, to do. We've got all this, and we have your capacity, and we try to push them together. The truth is if this equation is out of sync in any way, that's a problem, right? So if it's full, if the stuff is so stuffed into your capacity that we don't have anything left like to breathe, then you don't have the joy, you don't have the thing. So what are we going to do? We only have 3 options. Number 1, we need to go on a personal and professional development journey in order to expand our personal capacity. Now, I have found that is possible. It's just, it takes a very, 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 very long time. The second thing we can do is we can get rid of some of the stuff. And that's probably, many people could probably use some of the stuff that they're dealing with to be gone. And it's still probably pretty overflowing with the stuff you need to keep. Okay. So the third option we have, which is my favorite and is my philosophy, is we need to minimize the amount of capacity each of those individual stuffs are going to take out of our personal daily capacity. And we can only do that by stop having the perspective of them, stop adding on to, stop dramatizing, stop making them harder to deal with. We think about, in my book, Take Back Your Weekends, I have 31 barriers to performance. And one of the most common ones is worrying.
Yes.
Right? Like
very common,
worry.
very common. Anxiety and worry. Yes. Most
Oh
of
my
the most common stressors for people.
Yeah. But what a shame, because most of the time, like let's think back to 2020. Let's imagine in February, you were worrying about, oh my gosh, we have so much business coming in. I don't know how we're going to have enough staff. I don't know how we're going to manage all of this workload. And worrying about it, like up at night, like do I, right, etc. I suspect the worries you had were not the worries that came to fruition. Right? Like our imaginations don't actually have a crystal ball. We have no idea what is going to happen in the future. And so most of the time that is spent worrying is actually just, I've heard, I forget who it was who said it might have been Mel Robbins or something, but rehearsing for trauma, like rehearsing for the bad. The way I look at it is it's a down payment on a problem that you may never have.
Yes, I agree. Worry is, one of my stress coaches, she used to say, it's negative fake worry. It's fake worry because it's not real, and it's negative and it's fake, right? So we have a lot of negative fake worry in our lives, and we have to understand that is what the body imprints into our cells, so it will tell our body that we are in danger. We have to run away because we might be eaten, because our cells don't understand what's really going on the outside. They just get the information that there's worry, so there is a threat. So we need to launch a stress cascade into our body. So it's the physical component, the metabolic component coming into play, and we are reacting to something that is not there, and it's not real, and we don't even know if it's ever going to happen, right? But our body already feels it as reality, and I think this is the problem that we are experiencing, because we are already feeling and behaving as if our life is in danger. And if we show up like this to work every single day, that today might be our last day, we might be eaten, we might be not alive at the end of the day, then you can imagine what your body is going through physically and mentally and emotionally to save the day, right? So this is no way to live, okay? This is no way to live on an ongoing basis. And I think for me, merging the tool sets of what you provide, the outlook of things, and raising the awareness and then matching the solution to the awareness. So this tool set and the knowledge about how your body works, how it reacts, and how you can support it internally as well through nutrition, through the stress, and through sleep, and protective behavior to tell your body, hey, actually everything's okay. You will survive this day. There's no threat. You'll be okay, and your life's not in danger. We have to work on this, and we have to understand that this is work that we do need to do if we don't want to get sick down the road, if we want to stay healthy, and if we want to lead a very fulfilled and productive life.
Yeah, definitely. I absolutely agree with you. And it's so interesting, the mind-body connection. And I mean, this is your bailiwick, right? Like this is your level of expertise. And I'm so fascinated, definitely not my area of expertise, but the body, and I've read the book, The Body Keeps Score, right? Yes. Like all of our traumas. But the thing is that we already have enough stuff going on in our lives. We don't need to manufacture with our imaginations whole other storylines that probably will never come to fruition, right? And so with my work in the problem solving framework, the way I like to look at it is, let's take your barrier to performance. Let's say you're a procrastinator or a worrier. Let's stick on the worrying example. And we take the worry, and let's say you worry for 3 days before a big speech or before a big meeting or before you're going to do something. Okay. So 3-day thing. What's 3 days of your life that have been consumed, that have been really, parts of you have been stolen, right? Parts of your capacity stolen by this habit of worry. And so my hope is, okay, can we get that down to 2 days? And then can we get it down to, I'm going to worry for 1 day? And then eventually, can you get it down to 2 hours or 10 minutes? And so for me, who is such a, like, I come from a very long line of warriors, like, we're masterful. If you need a good warrior, you just come to the Graham household. So I learned very early, right? Like, how to worry very effectively. And so it's ingrained in who I am. So to expect myself never to worry again is unrealistic. I think it's setting myself up for failure. And it's, tipping into that judgment versus compassionate curiosity. However, I have managed to get to a point where the instinct of worry comes to fruition. And it's so ingrained in me, this work, that I immediately switch it off. Right. And so I have this whole process that I go through. I apply the problem solving framework to the situation that I'm worrying on. And I no longer worry. Doesn't mean I don't have the instinct to worry. It means I don't choose to allow it to go on for 3 or 5 days in advance. Right.
Absolutely.
That's the key.
And I think that's the key. Absolutely. Because we do need to have our tool set. We do need to know, what do we need to do so we are not putting ourselves into that situation in the first place. This really requires knowledge and work. And it's not given to us intuitively. Like, we are usually not, we don't wake up one day and have this enlightenment. Oh, I know exactly what to do. And I also know how to behave to support my body. Look, we don't know this, and we don't get told this thing in school either, right? So we are clueless when we start out. So that's why I'm saying to people, just educate yourself and get the help that you need, because we all need it. We all do need this help, because it's such a prevalent problem. We all stress, more or less, but we all have our, patterns. Either we worry, we have anxiety, we have depression, we feel overwhelmed, we feel tired, we feel exhausted. All of these things stem from the same root, that we are reacting to something and our body doesn't know what to do with the situation, right? It doesn't know how to deal with this. So getting this back in line, just paint a picture. So how can life actually look like if you don't stress so much? Like, what's actually going to happen? Tell us, Allison.
So what has happened with some of my coaching clients, and with my, I go in and I do corporate keynotes and things like that as well, but level of peace that can come from your life, you'll start to notice more moments of joy and laughter. You will have a sense of control. But when I say control, I don't mean controlling. I mean a sense of, I got this. I'm going to be okay. You will have ultimately better sleep, because you're trusting the task circle to manage all the things you need to do, and not your brain as you hit the pillow, right? There's just such a level of confidence that comes from it. You're more present. You are just like, you're more productive. You're able to get into flow better. Like, there's just so many pieces of the puzzle when we step out of that destructive stress vortex that so many people are spinning in, and society has got us spinning in it. And so it's up to us to come out and say, no, wait a second. I don't want to keep going the next 6 months the way I've felt the last 6 months. And so if nothing else in my circumstances changes, how can I stress less, do more, and be happier? That's what I'm all about. And I really encourage people to, go read the book, Take Back Your Weekends, Stress Less, Do More, Be Happier. I mean, that's why I wrote it. Very, very short read, specifically because it's for busy professionals. And, that's the starting block. right? And then from there, you can go into, I've got the online programs. I also do the free every 4 days a week. I do a live, and you've been on my show for that, right? Like, there's so many resources out there for people. I know, like, the work you do with people, if they're struggling with their physical being and the stress connection, like, they've got to talk to you, right? Like, they've got to have some coaching time with you, your online program, everything that you have to offer is so incredibly critical, because without our health, our physical health, they go together, right? Like, I know when I'm exercising and I'm feeling good, I mean, I have a lot of chronic pain with nerve pain and everything like that. But I know that if my stress level goes up, if my nutrition goes down, my pain level will also intensify. Like, that's just how it works. And so one of my greatest ways of managing pain without all of the big medications that the doctors used to have me on is I need to stay out of the spinning of that destructive stress cycle. Like, it's just not where I can spend my days and be happy and productive. Like, I have to make a choice. You can't have both. You can't be spinning, right? And feel a sense of peace and joy at the same time.
Yes, I love it. And, you really summed it up nicely. We have to make a decision. We have to take action on where we want to go, right? And we have to find who can help us with that, because we do need some support if we embark on such an important journey of getting our life back and getting out of the stress rut, and feeling, as you said, peaceful, happy, joyful. We laugh more, and I'm pretty sure that life will look way more happier and more joyful moving forward than where it would be right now.
That's what the word came to me.
Delicious. Perfect. I love delicious.
It's glorious.
Yeah. Life will be more delicious and glorious. I love it. Well, that was so amazing, Allison. You gave such a great overview of the situation. You had so many great tips, and I love the book you have written, and you will also provide all your contact information, everything where people can find you. For me, it will be underneath this video shortly. And thank you so much, Allison. And I know this will not be the end of the conversation. We will connect again and talk some more, because there's so much to say and so much that we can provide on insight and support, so that we can help make the world a better place through you. Absolutely. That's really what's going to be happening.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for the platform. It's really awesome. And let's change lives.
Absolutely. Let's get out and change lives. And thank you so much for being on my YouTube channel. And we will talk again soon. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.